Genesis 6 is a pretty weird chapter, especially the first part, which deals with these strange beings called the Nephilim. Now, that's not a translation, it's a transliteration, which means it takes the Hebrew and just brings it into English. But what makes the Nephilim so strange is that it appears that they were giants. They go by other names. Nephilim, Amim, Anakim, Rephaim, Zazumim. They're all the same thing, it seems. And what is strange about it is that angels left their divided abode in heaven, saw that the daughters of men were beautiful, took on human bodies, I don't know, cloning, engineering, whatever, and took them as wives and started their own race. This guy got very angry. And this seems to have been happening on the planet before the flood and afterwards. So when the man began to multiply on the face of the land and daughters were born to them, the sons of God, that's angels, saw that the daughters of men were attractive, duh. And they took as their wives any that they chose. So they left their appointed abode. And the Lord said, my spirit will not abide with man forever, for he is flesh, and his days will be 120 years. Now, every baby boomer I've talked to always says, does that mean I'm only going to live 120 years? But most Gen Z and millennials, they will blow right past that, maybe because they're young, and they'll say, wow, does that really mean we've been invaded by like these superheroes or giants? And that seems to be what the text is saying. And it's not the only place in the Bible that refers to them. Interestingly, is, for example, it's possible that Goliath was one of these, and Goliath's brother. And go with me to 2 Samuel 21. Look, verse 15. There was a war between the Philistines and Israel. David went down together with his servants. They fought against the Philistines. David grew weary. Now look at this. Ishi-Benob, one of the descendants of the giants, whose spear weighed 300 shekels of bronze, was armed with a new sword, thought to kill David. But Abishai, son of Zeruiah, came to his aid, attacked the Philistines, and killed him. Then David's men swore to him, you shall no longer go out with us to battle, lest you quench the lamp of Israel. Now keep reading. After this, there was again war with the Philistines at Gob. Then Sibbecai, the Hushathite, struck down Saph, who was one of the descendants of the giants. Get the point? There was again war with the Philistines at Gob, and Elhanan, the son of Jare-Oragim, the Bethlehemite, struck down Goliath, the Gittite, the shaft of whose spear was like a weaver's beam. Different Goliath. There was again war at Gath, where there was a man of great stature who had 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot. Don't think this is mythology. I saw a picture, by the way, in the major leagues who had 2 hands, and 6 fingers on each hand, 6 fingers on each toe. That is a condition. So he had 6 fingers on each hand, 6 toes on each foot, 24 in number, and he also was descended from the giants. When he taunted Israel, Jonathan, the son of Shimei, David's brother, struck him down. There were 24, these 4 were descended from the giants of Gath, and they fell by the hand of David and by the hand of the servants. It's not the only place in the Bible that refers to these giants. There's another place. When Israel comes out of Egypt, they're going through the land of the Moabites, and God tells them, be really careful how you deal with the Moabites. They're cousins. But then in a parenthetical throw-off, it refers to these people, the Amim. Now, the Amim are the giants. The Amim, Anakim, Rephaim, Nephilim. Deuteronomy 2, verse 10. The Amim formerly lived there, people great and many, as tall as the Anakim. Like the Anakim, they were counted as the Rephaim, giants. But the Moabites called them the Amim. The Horites, no, they're people, also lived in Seir formerly. But the people of Esau dispossessed them and destroyed them from before them and settled in their place, as Israel did to the land of their possession, which the Lord gave to them. They show up everywhere. Oh yeah, maybe the most problematic and interesting of the passages actually comes in the New Testament. And it comes from none other than Peter, who makes this really strange reference to what happens after the cross and after Jesus is crucified. And there in verse 18, 1 Peter 3, verse 18, For Christ also suffered once for sins, the righteous for the unrighteous, that he might bring us to God, being put to death in the flesh, but made alive in the spirit, in which he went and proclaimed to the spirits in prison, because they formerly did not obey. Look at this. When God's patience waited in the days of Noah, while the ark was being prepared, in which a few, that is 8 persons, were brought safely through the water. Now wait a second, the days of Noah. That brings us back to the run-up to the flood, which is Genesis chapter 6. That is this whole concept of the Nephilim. Could it be that these Nephilim, these half divine angels, half humans, that God put in prison, waiting there in this hell after Jesus was crucified? Jesus comes down and he exercises judgment on them, and he says, no, this cross, as it is a judgment on the kingdom of darkness, is a judgment on you for having left your abode. Peter's not the only one that does that. So does Jude. Jude talks about it as well. So just quickly look at Jude. Now, Jude's only one chapter, so you say like Jude 6. It's not Jude chapter 6. It's Jude chapter 1, verse 6. So Jude 6, chapter 1, verse 6. And the angels who did not stay within their own position of authority, but left their proper dwelling, he has kept in eternal chains under gloomy darkness until the judgment of the great day. What's that about? Could it be the same thing Peter's talking about? Because Jude and Peter are very similar letters. That these Nephilim, these angels who saw that the daughters of men were beautiful, or rather these angels who saw that the daughters of men were beautiful and took some and created these Nephilim, are held in, these angels are held in bondage, or held in hell itself, in these gloomy darkness and chains, awaiting this judgment day. Could this all be related events going back to Genesis 6, where these angels left their appointed places? So why does it show up in Genesis 6? Well, it makes perfect sense to show up there, and only a hint of it. We don't really need it for the rest of the narrative, other than the whole concept of sin is leaving the boundaries that God has created. So in the beginning, when God made the heavens and the earth, he set boundaries. Every day is bounded. Light and darkness is bounded. The trees are bounded by according to their kinds. We multiply according to our kinds. Everything was good, was very good. It was bounded and was to be fruitful and multiply. Sin comes and it oversteps the boundaries that God made. And it didn't just happen on the earth. It happened apparently in the heavens as well. It happened when Lucifer overstepped his boundary and wanted to be God. But it also seemed to happen when the angels overstepped their heavenly boundaries and wanted to invade earth by becoming human. That's really interesting. Showed up in Sodom and Gomorrah when the people of Sodom and Gomorrah wanted to sleep with the messengers that came to Lot. That's not just the sin of, hey, we want to have homosexual sex with these messengers. They wanted to have sex with angels. That's the same thing as what's happening here. It's an overstepping of species in a sense. It's really leaving the boundaries that God had set. This is a very different thing. And so we're given this picture in Genesis 6, but it doesn't play fully out. We're just given enough to see that something really strange was happening. And it's enough for God to say, I've had enough.